I gave my older brother my bone marrow before I turned 18. Last month, at his engagement dinner, his fiancée asked one question that destroyed our family forever. The room went silent. My brother's face turned pale, and for the first time in 20 years, I realized the biggest sacrifice of my life had been built on a lie. When I was 18 years old, I walked into a hospital, believing I was saving my brother's life. I had no idea that 20 years later, I'd discover I had sacrificed my own. My older brother, Daniel, was 19 when doctors diagnosed him with aplastic anemia. One day, he was a normal college student worrying about exams and girls. The next, he was lying in a hospital bed while doctors explained that without a bone marrow transplant, he might not survive another year. My parents were devastated. Our family fell apart almost overnight. When the doctors discovered that I was a perfect match, nobody had to ask me what I wanted. I said yes immediately. I still remember walking into Daniel's hospital room the night before the procedure. He looked terrified, not just because he was dying, but because his little brother was about to suffer because of him. "You don't have to do this," he whispered. I laughed and told him to shut up. "You're my brother," I said. "Of course I'm doing this." He cried. I pretended not to. The transplant worked. Daniel survived. Everyone called it a miracle. Everyone called me a hero, but nobody talks about what happens after the miracle ends. The medical bills destroyed my parents financially. They emptied their savings, borrowed money, and nearly lost our house. Meanwhile, I had been accepted into one of the best engineering programs in the country. I had dreams. I had plans. I gave them all up. Instead of going to college, I stayed home and worked 2 jobs to help keep my family alive. Construction during the day, warehouse shifts at night. I kept telling myself it was temporary. I kept telling myself that family comes first. Daniel recovered. He graduated college. He got a high-paying job in finance. He moved to Chicago. He bought expensive cars. He traveled the world. And slowly, over the years, he stopped calling me. At first, he was busy. Then he was stressed. Then he was traveling. Eventually, birthdays became text messages. Christmas became 5-minute phone calls. And after a while, we became strangers who happened to share the same last name. I never complained. How could I? I had saved his life. Then, last month, I received an invitation to Daniel's engagement dinner. I was shocked. We hadn't had a real conversation in almost 3 years, but my mother called and begged me to come. "Please," she said. It would mean everything to him. So I drove 6 hours to Chicago. The restaurant was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city skyline. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. The food cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. Daniel looked successful, confident, happy, like the sick teenager I remembered had never existed. His fiancée, Claire, was different than I expected. She was kind, funny, the kind of person who genuinely cared about others. Throughout dinner, she kept asking me questions about Daniel growing up. "Was he always this stubborn?" she asked with a smile. I laughed. You have no idea. Everyone laughed. For the first time in years, I almost felt like we were a family again. Then Claire stood up to make a toast. She raised her glass and smiled. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," she said, "but I especially want to thank Michael." I nearly choked on my drink. She looked at me and smiled. "Daniel told me that Michael saved his life." The entire table applauded. I felt embarrassed. "It was a long time ago," I said quietly. But Claire didn't sit down. Instead, she looked at Daniel. "Actually," she said, "there's something I've always wondered." The room became silent. She smiled nervously. "If Michael sacrificed so much for you, why don't you two talk anymore?" Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. My mother's eyes immediately filled with tears. My father stared at his plate, and Daniel looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. Claire laughed awkwardly. "Wait, did I say something wrong?" Daniel slowly put down his wine glass. "Claire," he whispered. "Not now." She frowned. "Not now? Why not?" Still, nobody answered. That's when I realized something that made my blood run cold. Everyone at that table already knew the answer. Everyone except Claire. She looked around the room. "What is happening?" Daniel closed his eyes. "There are things I never told you." My stomach dropped. "What things?" she asked quietly. Daniel looked directly at me. For the first time in years, I saw guilt in his eyes. "When I got sick," he began, "our family lost everything." Claire nodded. "I know." Daniel shook his head. "No, you know the story we tell people."